Welcome to Better Together, Growth and Event Marketing. So our chair is Gloria Zhu, Director of Demand Gen for Jubilo. Gloria's career in marketing has spanned more than 10 years, with in-depth experience running demand gen and performance marketing programs for both agencies and in-house. She's directed strategy and managed campaigns for brands such as Instagram, Databricks, KiwiCo, Intercom, Quicken, and more. So I bring to you Gloria Zhu.
Hey everyone. I'm Gloria, and this is my partner, Jessica, who's my events partner on the other side.
Hi everyone. I've been working as Director of Events for Jubilo for the past couple years. Jubilo has recently acquired Field Drive, which is helping with on-site badge scanning technology and to bring us into more of the on-site space. So I'm now over on Field Drive working on their events and engagement efforts. We've got a booth right over here, so hopefully after this event, you can come meet us, meet the team, say hi and learn a little bit more about both of us. So let's get a little jump into it. When I started my career, I didn't work with the growth team, and I didn't even know that was a possibility to make my events more successful. Now I do. So I'm curious in the audience, how many of you as either event planners or growth marketers are working with your growth and events teams? Thank you. We got one. But it's a really interesting thing to get together. So I want to talk about, how this actually works. When I'm thinking about my event strategy, the first thing I'm going to think about is, what do I want to achieve? Most likely that's pipeline. And that's what my organization needs. So how am I going to get there? What I've learned over the years is my growth team is already working on pipeline. They're getting leads for sales. They already have a strategy in place to target the audience that I also want to target. So if I can align my event schedule with my growth team strategy, then I'm now going to target the same people so that we're handing the right leads over to our sales team. And we're also directing the right content to the audience and what they're looking for.
Yeah. So I think one of the most interesting things is that in a lot of organizations that I've been in on the growth and demand gen side is that events sort of sit separately in a different bucket. So events generally sit with brand and brand strategy. And that's something that, you'll see across the board in various sizes of organizations. And so what that does is it usually creates a silo, and your teams end up doing different things, even though really alignment, it should be the number one thing across all of these teams. So, when we're thinking about growth, events is part of growth. We're not throwing an event just to throw an event. We're throwing an event to grow our leads, to grow our database, to grow our ICPs. So goal alignment should always be across the board, across both teams. So I have brand recognition on my side, on the growth side here. That's number one. You can really take advantage of that when you're working with your events team. And then on the flip side, we have ABM, which is something that most people would be familiar with, account-based marketing. Events is one of the best ways to, like Jess said, generate your ICPs. Talk to people who are here to do the thing that they're here to do and get them all in the same room. A lot of times in my world, in the demand gen world, growth is about scale. It's about the most people you can reach, and you're not necessarily reaching the right people all the time. And so events is one of the best ways to talk to 100% of the people that you want to talk to. And then the last one here is nurture. Obviously, the leads that you get from events, you want to do something with them. You want to continue building this relationship. Nurture comes in many different forms. We'll touch on it later. Besides just email, we can get creative. You can reach out with gifting and all kinds of different fun ideas. So definitely think about nurture when you're building out your growth strategy with your events team in mind.
Absolutely. So proven facts. We know that if we align our targeted and goals, that growth is going to organically happen. For example, if I have a goal for my event, the registration count I need is 1,000 people. I can come to Gloria and her team and say, I need 1,000 registrations for this event. That's the goal I have. How do I get there? And they can help me find the channels and the ways to get there. She's also going to share with me, hey, you also need this percentage of your budget to go towards whether it's paid media advertising or ads. And then I now have some metrics to go back to my ROI or to help prove my ROI, because that's what my stakeholders are ultimately looking for.
Yeah, and just a note on the budget front, you can pool your budgets together. Think about that. My budget usually in a company is it's dependent on performance, and so quarter over quarter it's different. Obviously with Jess, but as well. But my budget generally tends to eclipse a lot of different channels. And so let's say we have an event that needs to generate 1,000 ICPs. I can put force behind that, and then we can share that attribution. That is something that I have pitched to executives, to leadership teams, and they love it because it shows alignment. It shows that you guys are working together. So,
yeah, you can go to the next one. It's all good. So how do we get there? How do we actually align and work a little bit more together? So what I like to do is this always on event strategy. And there's other terms for it. Some people call it an evergreen event strategy, but it is essentially what it is. Your events are not just a one and done. You always have to think about your event as a touch point along the journey that your attendee or your lead might have. And you want to make sure you're continuously creating opportunities to build relationship with your brand, with your sales teams, with the individuals at your company. There's this quote that I always think about that someone said to me earlier in my career, and it is, event is not over until everyone stops talking about it. So if you think about your event and what we're doing next, how are we engaging with the speakers more? How are we repurposing this content? How are we taking our attendees at the event and really creating a community for them, which is going to create this buzz, and that's going to be this long-standing relationship with your community. So Gloria's going to give us a couple examples of strategies that we can use, that you can use, that might help you.
One of the things that quote actually reminded me, whenever we think about events, we, as professionals, we're always thinking about like, trade shows or dinners or, some kind of executive seminar or something like that. We need to think a little bit bigger sometimes. Think about the Met Gala. When they stop this year, they're thinking about next year, and they're going to get you talking about next year. So how can you get your prospects and your customers talking about the next event before it even starts, right? So this is a good slide for y'all to screenshot if you're interested in creating an always-on sort of evergreen strategy, event strategy for your growth and event teams to work together. There are two different types of always-on event strategies that we've put together, and there's a reason for that. So for the first one here, you can see that the prospect stage is relatively long, and the customer and advocate stages are a little bit shorter. And this is for a product that usually has a longer sales cycle. So you want to make sure that your events are mostly resourced around the prospect stage, and your budgets are resourced around the prospect stage, because it's going to take them a lot longer to cross the finish line and become a customer, because your sales cycle might be 6, sometimes even 9 months for an enterprise product. For the second one, the prospect stage is a little bit shorter, or it's supposed to be shorter. I think maybe we had the wrong one down here, but, a customer stage is a little bit longer usually. So that's for a product that might have a shorter sales cycle, maybe 1 month, maybe even shorter than that. And so you want to spend more money in making sure that they're retained as a customer and make sure that their churn, there isn't any churn there. So, I said, the second one has a shorter prospect stage, but just pretend that the middle two here says customer.
That's right. And then I think we're going to talk a little bit now going into lead nurture.
Yeah.
And, we've got the leads. The event team brought in all the leads.
Yeah.
A growth team brought in a bunch of leads. What are we doing with these leads?
Yes. So we'll start with the number one thing. And our BDR director is right there taking pictures. So sales alignment is number one, right? What are we going to do with these leads that we've scanned at this awesome event? Are we just going to make sure that, they go into some database and nothing ever happens to them again? First of all, absolutely not. What I've found to be pretty successful, if you have different stages for the lead handoff process. So if you have leads that are hot, warm, and cold, the hot leads can go directly to an AE even. They can take care of that immediately. These are leads that not only requested a demo, but maybe told you at the booth, like, hey, we're ready to buy. So you want to make sure that your sales team knows that and what the handoff process looks like. Who's taking over those hot leads? Who's working on warm ones? What does the nurture process look like on the marketing side for the warm leads? And what does it look like for the cold leads? Those are people that maybe you scanned their badge, they're in your system, but they haven't even really talked to you, or you don't remember them at all. So those need to be treated a lot more differently and resourced differently across the stages.
Yeah, and I'm going to touch a little bit on that. The second most important thing is to act fast. Two things I always say. One, reach out within 24 hours. And two, personalize that outreach. So I went to an event a couple weeks ago, and I just remember thinking, I want to connect with everyone after this event. It was a small event, 30 people. And I just started writing down in my notebook conversations I was having with everyone so that I can follow up with everyone and share that back. We both talked about being in Costa Rica recently. This gal, Erica, loves Barry Manilow. I can send her a meme and just make it funny. But taking it down a notch, not every event is 30 people. You might have thousands of people at the event. And you still want to try to remember some of that personalization with people you have. So make sure that your sales team is trained to take notes as they're collecting leads so that they can follow up. And when you have to do something a lot bigger, if you're using any type of event app or virtual event technology, that data is getting collected for you. So you're able to, pull some data out. Well, this person said this in a chat. They watched this video. They downloaded this PDF. All of that data is there for them. And you have something now to give to your sales team to go out and say, hey, we didn't meet, but I saw you downloaded this PDF. Here's what it's about. Let me talk to you a little bit more about how we might be able to support you.
Yeah, I think, like Jess said, you can't talk to everyone. You can't be like, 1,000 people, 1,000 conversations. How do I follow up one by one? And that's where the stages come in, the hot, warm, cold buckets. Put a lot of your personalization, the personal notes that you're writing out into the hot leads bucket, and make sure that they're genuine and you actually, care about what you guys talked about. Because at the end of the day, I think as human beings, like, we know when somebody cares about helping us solve our problems. And so, on the marketing side, I always say, like, personalization isn't really about just making sure that you have scale. Personalization is about authenticity, and making sure that, like, what you're selling or what you're trying to get your prospect to buy, you're actually trying to solve their problem. So, and using that data and segmenting out your, workflows and nurture flows is going to help you immensely. Even if you have to create, several different ones, you can test them, right? I think the personalization point down here that Jess mentioned is immense for testing, and then it'll improve your next event and your next lead nurture.
Yeah, and I think, coming into this ROI and attribution for events, we all know that proving that ROI can be tricky. It can also be long-term, as we looked at some of those event strategies. But when, and it's always going to depend on how your company or your client's company, if you're working with clients, how do they define success and what matters to them? So again, coming back to that, starting off my event strategy, I want to make sure that I'm setting goals that are measurable and attainable. It could be as simple as event registration count, and that's something you're going to know on event day. You'll know how many people registered for that event. It could be pipeline opportunities. It can be closed sales. And those are the kind of things that will take longer to prove that ROI. But remember, we've got these touch points along the way. There's multiple opportunities in that evergreen, always on event strategy, so that we're finding all these different touch points and connections with our audience. And then I can work with my growth team to say, okay, how did this email do? How was this social campaign? Did this generate buzz for this event? And then we can kind of look at that and talk about attribution and see how it might be a success. And I think you've got a couple examples about attribution models to share.
Yeah, so I love talking about attribution as a growth marketer. So please screenshot this. I worked really hard on it. I can talk about attribution all day long. I think it's sort of the white whale. Is that the phrase? Okay, it's like the white whale that every growth marketer chases after. How do we attribute everything? So the first one I'll talk about is pretty easily understood. First touch. This is, where your prospect first found you, right? And so is it at an event? Is it from, it's usually not website. Website is never first touch, first of all. If your Salesforce is saying that website is first touch, they saw you from somewhere else because they didn't wake up one day and dream about Hoopla. So, maybe they saw it from a social post. Maybe they heard it from a coworker. Usually brand is the best. This is the best way to measure brand. It's still not very accurate because, as we all know, we're human beings. We go outside, we see something, and then we forget where we saw it. And there's no way to track us down. They try very hard, but government. So first touch is easy to implement. It's the best way to track your events and brand strategy and give credit back to your events. So, and then the second one here is multi-touch. There are two types that are commonly used in my world. The U-shape, which is first and last touch. What happens in the U-shape attribution is you get 50% of the credit to first touch and then 50% to the last touch, and then nothing else in between. You're just kind of like, all right, so first touch is ETL, and then last touch is maybe a BDR outreach, and that's it. And then that's how you determine where you're going to put your budgets and where you're going to ask for money from your executive team and do planning. The W shape is more nuanced. I think this is the one that every growth marketer loves to talk about, but nobody truly implements it because data is messy. So it's first touch, middle touch, and last touch. So usually the credit is 40% first and last, and then 20% for the middle touch. So middle touch can be something like, a podcast, a webinar. Maybe I saw Jeff speak at ETL. It's a little bit more qualitative and it's a little bit fuzzy with middle touch. And that's why I say this is also, it's like the small white whale in our world that nobody ever really gets to because data is messy and people are messy, but we strive for the W shape. And then the last one, this is the one that I love the most. It's hybrid attribution. What this means is taking the data from whatever systems you're using. We use Salesforce. I'm sure most people here use Salesforce, right? You're taking that data and you're saying like, okay, so, from ETL, we generated 1,000 leads, right? Are these existing leads? Are these net new? Have they been in our database before? You can see all of those numbers and sort them out and segment. So that's the quant side of hybrid attribution. The qualitative side is talking to your sales team. The human side of it, if any of you use Gong for your organization or Chorus, that's another really good one. You can go in and listen to the sales calls and search for keywords. For example, I saw you at a conference. I talked to, Field Drive. I saw you guys in London. those are all the qualitative aspects of attribution that sometimes, as marketers, we kind of forget about. This is a habit that I developed from being at agencies, because clients always ask you like, hey, how did this do? Are there other ways for us to understand how something did better? And so taking qualitative aspect and even talking to your sales team, be like, hey, did you guys talk to anyone from this event? Because a lot of times Google is going to take credit for that interaction in your database, because somebody's going to go here and look at Hublo and be like, all right, I'm going to Google it, book a demo, and then you've lost credit for your event. So make sure you capture the qualitative side as much as you can.
This is why I partner with Lightroom, because everything she said is not in my wheelhouse as the event planner. So I really, having someone who understands and can help me learn and grow my events. It's so important to have this relationship and work with someone who understands what I don't, and hopefully vice versa a little bit.
Yes.
So I think we're going to wrap up a little bit. We've just taken some of the points we made today and, put them out here for you. So remember that always on event experience. Don't think of your event as that one and done. Think about a long strategy. Work with your growth team. What is their strategy? How do you get your event to, align with what they're doing, the content they're sharing, so that you're sharing that same content with your audience, and align with your sales team pre, during, and post events. Don't waste time before the event, or especially after the event, reaching out to those leads. Make some personalization outreach, and really just be in touch with everyone. Let them know what your brand is doing. If you didn't meet someone, well, hey, we're going to be at this other event, or we're doing this happy hour, or we have this webinar coming up. Just make sure you're continually putting that brand in front of everyone so that they start to get that recognition.
Yeah, and that's a really great segue into the reminder around nurture. I know we talked about nurture a little bit, I think a couple sections ago. Get creative with your lead nurture strategy. I think a lot of times when we talk about nurture, we only think about email. All of our inboxes are crazy. I am horrible at email. I'm trying to be better. If you're an inbox zero person, please see me after the event and we can talk about it. You can teach me your ways. But I think going outside of email is going to make your brand even more recognizable, and make it so that you get creative about what resources you actually have. So lead nurture things that I've done sort of in my career that's worked really well is, one, direct mail. That's something, a lot of us forget about. Like, we love getting mail. People love getting things in the mail. I think this is something that'll take your brand recognition to the next level. Obviously, getting addresses. There are tons of, tools out there that will help you. Send them something after the event that will make them remember you. Reach out via LinkedIn, personalized message. I think LinkedIn, we're on it all the time. They're going to remember you. I don't recommend texting. So that's a little bit personal, but maybe if you guys did exchange numbers, or, you guys got grab drinks after the event, make it, yeah, exactly. So get creative, but not too creative. And then lastly, I'm always talking about hybrid attribution. Taking that hybrid attribution model and helping prove out your event ROI is going to be super, super important. And making sure that you are working with your events team to try to get that qualitative data through the booth, right? Because your sales and events teams, they're the ones having the conversations at the booth. And so talk to them afterwards and be like, hey, I saw that this customer from, one of our target accounts came through. Did you talk to them? Did you scan their badge? Like, let's mark it in the system now. And then you can follow up with a personalized outreach afterwards. So definitely try to implement hybrid attribution and talk to your leadership team about that. There are tools out there that'll help you immensely for this one. I think that's it.
I'm an email zero person, and I don't think you're going to like how I get there.
Oh, Okay.
I delete all the marketing emails. You have to find me in another channel. But people find me. There's other ways.
See? I'm telling you, email. It's a tough one. It's a tough one.
Very good. So I think now we want to take any questions from the audience. If you guys have any questions or want to share any ideas with us.
I know they asked us to ask through the app.
Oh, yeah.
But I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah.
So if you want to just like raise your hand, that's fine too.
Do that. We've got some espresso martinis and margaritas right over here at our Hubalo and Field Drive booth. Feel free to come over and
right here.
Ask us a question over a beverage. We have water too if you don't want to have a cocktail. But feel free to stop by and say hi to us over there.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you.